Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher. Welcome to A Reentry Point of View. Today, our guest is Vikki Kristiansson. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Hey,
I'm
listen, you running for Common Pleas Court, right?
Yes.
Tell my audience who you are and why you running for judge.
Thanks, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Tracy said, my name is Vikki Kristiansson. I am running for the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia. And I am running because my entire background has been devoted to fighting against child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And what we see when it comes to treatment of our children and our adults, no matter where we are, is that we should be trauma-informed, trauma-responsive. And so I want to take a lot of the better practices that we see now in many professional and community groups and apply those practices to our courts. I want to run a trauma-informed courtroom.
Wow. How long you been a lawyer?
14 years.
14 years? What made you want to be a lawyer?
My mother is a retired Philadelphia public school teacher. And because of my mother, who raised my sister and me as a single parent, I still volunteer in Philadelphia public schools with a group of at-risk girls, because I think the greatest thing that we can do in terms of service is not only working directly with people, but working to create systems change. And that's really why I went to law school. It all comes back to my mother and her hard work and trying to make a difference in people's lives. And when I tried to think bigger picture, what can I do not only to help people individually, but help move systems forward, I thought that the best way for me to be able to do that was to go to law school. So I went to Temple Law School here in Philly.
And then when did you start getting a craving to be judge?
I really, this is something that just came as a result of doing the work. So as I have always worked on these cases, and when I say survivors of trauma, as you know, Tracy, survivors of trauma are everywhere, right? We see survivors of trauma in every room that we go into, but especially when we go into a courtroom in the Criminal Justice Center, or we go into any confinement facility, whether we're talking about our kids or our adults, we see survivors of trauma. And I want to be a judge so that we can take that awareness of the importance of addressing trauma into a courtroom. So when you have somebody who comes in to a courtroom on a particular day who has survived a violent crime, a traumatic event, we need to take care to address the trauma that that person has experienced and not re-traumatize them through the criminal justice process.
Absolutely.
Then when we look at people who have been charged with crimes in Philadelphia, and we should look both at our children and our adults, and we can talk about those in many similar ways, but also two different ways. Let's talk about our adults. Most of our adults, particularly in Philadelphia, if they're coming in charged with drug offenses, maybe charged with a robbery, or something that's a higher grade. When we start to look beneath the surface, almost every one of those people is a survivor of childhood and adolescent trauma.
Absolutely.
And so we need to be listening very carefully to what that person needs to be telling us about his or her, or however that person wants to be addressed, experiences, and then try to work with them to provide counseling, support, and mentorship throughout the process, so that if and when we get to a re-entry point, all of the services have been provided along the way, so that the re-entry, the services that we hope to provide on the back end, have been supported all along, and supported in a deep and meaningful way. So of course we need to be doing things like getting a GED, getting meaningful job training, but we also need to be addressing that underlying trauma so people can heal.
Right. So actually, as a judge, you will be doing the DNA process, meaning the DNA of the problem. You would get to the core and see this is how you help this individual so they don't have to be back in front of you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I want us to be doing in a more proactive and conscious way.
Absolutely.
And when you think about if we talk specifically now about our kids in Philadelphia, so many of our kids experience trauma. And I don't just mean trauma maybe in the home, when we were talking before about
Right.
abuse. When our kids walk to school every day, they might be on a regular basis seeing other people get into fights. They might see a stabbing. They might see somebody get arrested.
Mm-hmm.
They might have somebody in their family who they're watching get arrested. These are traumatic events. But what happens in Philly is that so many of our kids are taught to cope with these traumas by not coping. Not coping. I'm just gonna go on about my day because I see it so often. It's such a regular part of my life that I'm not gonna stop to address it. So what happens to it? It stays here. It stays here, and it's gonna come out at some point
Right,
and in some
absolutely.
way. And you know exactly, you know
Absolutely.
this is what you're doing with your life.
Right.
You're taking all of this and you're putting it into action.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that trauma awareness in a courtroom at this point.
Right.
And so what I have been doing throughout all of the work I've done in my career, but certainly now in preparation for hopefully being able to serve as judge, is working with other people in the community and other professionals. So I'm talking about therapists and psychologists, so that we can figure out the best way to run a courtroom that's going to address people's needs, so that they can re-enter and
Absolutely.
recover in a meaningful way.
Absolutely, and as you know, I represent 2.5 million people, and we are doing a political cleansing. And we don't care how long you've been on the bench. We don't care how long you've been in the DA's office or the mayor's office, governor's office. That's irrelevant. What we care about is results.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care if you're black, white, Chinese. We just want the person that's right for the job. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for. And I tried to explain this to individuals that's been around for a long time. And they saying, well, you got to understand the system. No, you forgot the system. You forgot the system for when you took oath, when you first got in office. Now you done deviated and you conform to what everybody else was doing, instead of for actually sticking to the plan that got you there in the first place. That's why it's called a political cleansing. That's why I'm so glad that so many of y'all are running that's new. Because now you get to sit like you sitting here, you get to hear our ideas and understand what we're looking for. So then we get behind you and put you in. Now you know why you in there. You're not in there to give us a free pass. That's not what we saying. You in there to be fair. Don't give me a 10-year sentence when there's only should be one. This is what we're talking about here. What do you think of that?
I think that's, you and I are on the same page. And I think fairness has to be a broader concept, right?
Right.
So all the things that we just talked about providing meaningful support and services, that's part of fairness,
Absolutely.
right? So it's got to be holistic. I think the best way, you talked before about this concern that people go into court and they become a judge and they start to change what they told you they were going to do, right?
Absolutely.
The best way, and that's why your show is so important, the best way to figure out what somebody's going to do as a judge is to carefully look at the work they've already done and why they want to run, why they want to serve, what they're pledging to be able to do, right? And so when we're talking about the importance of fairness, fairness is a really broad concept that we have to apply through every stage of the process, all the way through somebody's ability to go back into the community and thrive. What can we do to set up somebody for success in a way that's going to work for them? Because that looks different for everybody. It's an individualized concept.
And that's true. And I'm glad you understand and comprehend that, because I get phone calls all the time. And we do our weekly conference call as well. And they be like, okay, what about this judge? What about this candidate? What about this? So I said, well, I haven't sat in front of them yet. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? But that's reality.
Yeah.
Because we're so focused and passionate about this. Because 2018, you have the governor's race, right? Which we're going to be a big part of that. But the race I'm waiting for, 2019, the mayor's race. Mayor Kenney gotta go. And I'm telling you why. Because he's not a man of his word. He does not stick to what he said he was going to do. And when you do that, you create a movement against you. When you do that, you create a movement against you. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm letting you know I'm straightforward.
Right.
I don't do behind the curtain stuff. I don't do under the table stuff. I'm straightforward because the people I represent believe in me. And they gave me their trust. And then they sent their families to me to back them and represent them while they're incarcerated. So I have to be straight up.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to pay attention to what people are going to tell you they're going to do, and then to the greatest extent you possibly can, look at the work that they're doing.
Absolutely.
Look at the work, because then you can mobilize and do what you want to be doing.
Absolutely.
At the next opportunity to vote.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're on point. You're absolutely on point, because right now the way we see it is this: when you want something in life, and you want to make sure that your children's children benefit from it, you got to take it. You got to go out and get it. I like to watch wildlife. If you ever watch wildlife, a lioness will submit to a lion even after she done killed the food. He'll come in. That's his pay for protecting the pride, right? But when the lioness have cubs, and the other lions coming to kill off the male lion, and then when they go kill the cubs, so they can have their bloodline there, the lioness will group up as sisters, and mostly like sisters and aunts being there together, and they would attack that male lion. They will attack him to protect the cubs. Mm-hmm. Right now, I am protecting the cubs, because I go to the prisons and speak. So when I walk in, they stare at me. But what they're looking at is success, meaning this: he was once here. Mm-hmm. Now he's out there, mm-hmm. and he represents us, and he comes back in here. And I never forget them looks when I'm standing there speaking to them, and they staring into my eyes. So I can't be no other way than who I am. I don't sugarcoat it. I'm not ignorant. I'm not rude. I'm just straight to the point. Don't tell us you're going to do this and then go do that, because you're going to have to come back this way eventually. And that's the only thing we're saying. That's why we call it a political cleansing. That's why we're happy for individuals such as yourself that never been in front of us. You know, you're new. We're new. So let's go in with some new stuff, mm-hmm. and get rid of that old stuff. Right? And let's make some progress. So what you're saying, I agree 100%.
Right. We know a better way of doing things. So let's go, and together,
mm-hmm.
let's go do these things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Also, White, tell me this. You running for judge, obviously. The day they tell you, Vikki, you won, who that phone call go to?
Oh, well, I hope that at the time they tell me that, I'm with my husband and my children, mm-hmm. but my mother is the very first person I will mm-hmm. call.
Well, what gateway at? We third, fourth, fifth, what? We gotta be on the list.
Mom is always number one.
I get that.
Always call,
I get that.
You call your mother first.
I get that. Now, we got rid of number one.
Call number one first.
We already took care of number one.
Okay. After my mother, yes. It's community partners like Gateway, because if I can't do this by myself.
Absolutely.
And you can't do it by yourself.
Absolutely.
We need each other. If
right.
we are going to be able to meaningfully help,
yeah, coexist.
We need each
have
other.
To. You're right. You're 100% right.
Right. So I will be calling. Mm-hmm. I hope when it goes to voicemail, you call me back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, because my wife, we went to the candidates night. And she goes there and she
takes her notes?
Yes, she sits right up front.
Good.
She takes her notes, right? And she liked you. And she said, yeah, what about her? I said, well, I haven't really been with her. Yeah, let me talk with her. Nah, I like her. She got honesty. I said, how you know she got honesty? He said, I'm a woman. Yeah. She got honesty. I said, okay, all right. I said, okay. And that's the real thing there. So tell my people how they can get in touch with you.
Well, hello, everybody. First of all, I'm thrilled that your audience is this far and wide. And for the audience that is listening that is temporarily, at this time, residing in a confinement facility, I want you to know that I hear you and I support your needs. I also have been working on issues related to abuse in confinement facilities for much of my career. And I know how much more work we have to do to support the rights of people who reside in facilities. Keep them safe, keep them have access to their daily needs and needs that are going to help them go beyond. So I just want you to know that I hear you, and I will continue to work for your rights. For those who are out in the community, know that I've devoted my whole career to you. I've always worked as a nonprofit public interest attorney. I have never worked for profit. I've always worked for the community and for our children and our families. And as judge, I will keep doing that. And you know that I'll keep doing that because I've always done that work. I'm going to continue to do that work. And I'm going to do it with other people who want what's best for all of us, keeping people safe and keeping people healthy and helping everyone thrive in the community. So thank you, Tracey, for having me. Again, my name is Vikki Kristiansson. I'm a candidate for the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia, and I hope for your vote on May 16th. I'm number 14 on the ballot. Thank you.
Number 14, and thank you. I'm Tracey L. Fisher. This is a reentry point of view.